Right, we're back with episode 2 after literally about 43 minutes of trying to make this damn thing work. And I've got a Tokyo pillow with our evergreen mascot.
Little sausage.
Probably fucked up the sound earlier. But yeah, I guess like starting anything new, and we're just saying like most people don't bother to start things, and been talking about starting this podcast for like a year previously. Did a few episodes and then didn't bother, etc., because. And yeah, I guess like with anything in life, doing the first few is always the hardest, and this is number 2. Number 1 went down pretty well, I think. Was probably more controversial potentially than this episode. But yeah, I feel like I'm probably gonna have to learn to be a solid interviewer and like do a dramatic. Oh, what's he eating? Christ, some plastic. Do a dramatic introduction. Like Tom Billy on Impact Theory or something, but I don't have that prepared. So I guess today's guest is Billy Harris. I guess famously, or well, getting there, famously, not infamously, that's the wrong word. Famously, previously a fitness coach in Gymbox, which is where I've trained myself, and then got into the online fitness world, I guess. I probably don't know enough about what you actually originally did and what you. Well, I know what you do now to an extent, but we'll go into that. And basically just get his take on what I think is a really interesting and certainly a niche I know less about, because I guess like previously we spoke a lot about e-commerce, which kind of is e-commerce, but like more product e-com. And I guess you know a lot about personal brands, fitness, kind of translating from kind of like a passion job that a lot of people pursue, I feel like, in like personal training and so on, but then they can't monetize it that much. But then you've obviously figured out how to do it on a massive scale. So yeah, I guess we'll just give you the stage to start with, and then we'll dive into some like back and forth conversation and see where it goes. But yeah, I'm interested, and I guess our listeners are interested.
Yeah, so definitely. So I'll go from the beginning then in that case. So I left school at 18. Didn't want to go to university. Couldn't give less of a shit about university, to be fair. Had a place accepted, but I held it as a deferred place basically. Said to my parents, if I can make as much money as you in the first year, can I not go to university? That was a deal. So I did my PT qualification, moved to London. At the time when I was doing my PT qualification, it was in Brighton. I was sleeping on my mate's floor at his uni house in Freshers. So I was being like battered every night basically by them coming in after parties and stuff. Anyway, moved to London, had like 500 quid, had like no money at all. Started doing PT one-to-one in Gymbox, was living in a family friend's house luckily, so I was paying very minimal rent. Did pretty well. I was doing like 4, 6, even 8 grand a month at one point, which is pretty decent.
In Gymbox?
Yeah. Because I was lucky enough to work with some pretty cool clients. I had like Little Mix at one point, DJ, stuff like that.
Oh shit, I don't know that.
Yeah, so it's going pretty well. I was working my arse off. I was working from like 6 in the morning to like 10 at night at times. Just obsessed with making money basically. Didn't have any social life at all for like 2 years basically. It was like it was hell in that respect, but at the same time I knew that I could put my back against the wall and actually pull something off basically, which is great. But then obviously I was working from 6 till like 10 at night, as I said, realised that it wasn't feasible long term, and as a result looked for other solutions in terms of moving online. So yeah, bought my first info product, which was a total scam. It was such a waste of money. It was like 15 grand. And then
that's a lot for an info product.
Yeah, by a guy that said he was doing like 500 grand a month from a fitness coaching offer.
Can you reveal who this guy is?
Yeah, Sterling Griffin. I believe he's in like multiple court cases in the US.
Oh shit.
Yeah, his whole business got shut down. But yeah, it was a total scam of a product. Literally, the first module was filmed on an iPhone. And it was like, but he was like, is this recording? And I paid 15 grand for it. I was like, oh no. Jeez,
I feel like you were the one that were the fool in that situation.
Oh yeah, mate, massively got ripped. And then started to try and push things online by building a high ticket offer, and was like testing what I could do with it, with like a fitness and health offer. Then met E-Man, and obviously he was doing like 50 grand a month from his education business at the time whilst running an agency. Saw there was a great niche to tap into, basically clients like him. Whilst also, I was also training him, and then scaled my peak performance offer to like 30 grand a month. Was running that for about 2 years, maybe pushing towards 3, and then recently pivoted to build info productions basically. Yeah, that's the backstory.
And that's over what, like 4 years?
Yeah. So I'm now 23, and I started when I was 18, so 5.
And that Gymbox, that's not the one we used to go to, is it?
No, that was Old Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
so it was like proper like city-based clients. Like they all had cash basically, so you could charge whatever you wanted.
And you were self-employed in that gym or what?
Yeah.
Is that how it works? As PTs? I've never actually known.
It's pretty cutthroat. So like you're paying gym rent. I was paying 1.5 grand a month to work there.
That's like a barber then, I think.
Yeah,
barbers rent seats, and then it comes down to their clientele.
The gym's massively profiting off you. basically, and all the PTs in there. So there's like 12 PTs.
What? So
in
the
there?
gym would charge out like, I don't know, £100 an hour for PT, and they'd give you a percentage.
No, so it was
what?
so basically you pay the gym 1.5k a month. That was the rate.
Oh, just flat.
And then you could then work in there forever long you wanted. And you had to wear the gym box uniform and stuff, but you were technically self-employed.
And just name your price.
Yeah.
So you said Little Mix, was that like Perry Edwards and shit?
Yeah. So that was weird. So like one of my clients was a guy called Jodie Harsh. He's a drag queen DJ.
Oh, really?
But I had no clue. I just thought he was like really flamboyant and quite camp. And he came into the gym one day and he had like loads of glitter on his face and stuff. And I was like, do you mind if I ask, what's this all about? I was like 19, I was being quite ballsy when I asked him that. And he's like, oh, I'm a drag queen. Did you know that? And I was like, oh shit, no. And he's like,
he was famous?
Yeah, like pretty big. Like he's got a pretty big Instagram if you guys check it out. And then I went to like, some like sus like Magnum ice cream event with him after that. Met like, what's her name? Kelly Osbourne. In Sexy Fish, and I was like with a bunch of like drag queens and Kelly Osbourne. It was the weirdest
Sexy
thing.
Fish is a scam. I went on a second date there last year.
Yeah, it's such a scam.
Nice, but it's a scam.
Oh, so expensive.
It was like a lot.
It's so expensive. So did that, and then ended up getting invited to the Little Mix party, and met all of them there, which is pretty cool. Actually, I met.
Started coaching them as a result of the party.
Yeah, because I met their agent, and then funny enough, I actually met Demi in Gymbox as well, which is interesting.
Who?
Demi Rose. We're building an info product for her now, but I actually met her in Gymbox, but not what she remembers. I don't know. But I remember at the time I was like,
so were you this personal trainer toy boy to all these celebrities?
No.
Or was it not the same dynamic?
No, strictly professional. Although all the PTs were like smashing their clients in the toilets and stuff. Like all the time. People it was brutal. But yeah.
So when did you quit Gymbox then? So you went from making pretty decent money as a PT, relatively, certainly at that age.
Yeah, it was really good.
And then was it a sudden thing to switch into like online coaching?
Well, I had a bit of cash saved by then. Well, like a relative amount. I knew I could live off it for a while. Yeah. So I was like, right, I can give it a crack. So I just obviously bought the first info product for online coaching. It was an awful product, but at least I learned like how to put together an offer. Started doing some just organic outreach, just outbound, and then signed a client in real estate. His name was Omar, and it was like 500 quid a month or something, up to £1,000 at one point. And I was like, right, that's proof of concept. So I honestly just like quit at that point straight away. Yeah. Did a couple of clients face to face, started training E-Man face to face, and then just moved. I was just like, right, I'm gonna have to ditch this again and then move into something else, basically. Yeah, no, that's where we met, I think. Yeah, we met like at a party. We'd have met like 3 months later after I quit. So I literally just quit, and so like meeting you guys. Oh, really? To me, that was like a whole new world, because I was like, I remember you pulling up in your R8, and I was like, oh shit, this guy must be making like dollar. Pre-Neon Beach. And I'd actually spoken to Fred, because I'd done some outreach, like tried to get Fred as a client. Yeah, I think I remember him mentioning that. He said, who's this cunt trying to sign me? Yeah, exactly. And he was just like rejecting me left, right and centre. And I was like, right, I get to meet the guy in person, so that'd be interesting. And then obviously met Tyler there the same night. I remember he was wearing like a white shirt. Specific, I don't know why I remember that, but he's wearing like a white shirt looking quite formal. I remember meeting Tyler there. That was all at the same time. Yeah, and he was just launching his info product. He was just launching his first info product. Yeah. In real estate. I think he was working as a realtor at the same time. Yeah, geez, time flies. That was like 2.5 years ago. He was living in North London. Thought there's so much more money in info products than there are in e-commerce. Yeah, but I remember meeting you guys because I didn't understand like e-commerce. Obviously I knew of it, but I didn't see it as being like something that I was going to pursue. I was more invested into like info products because I just understood that it was much more profitable, at least. Yeah. But then I saw you guys and I was like, oh shit, they're doing sick things. But I just didn't understand the concept of like drop shipping or anything at the time, really. It's all pretty new to me. So your clients then, because I think I remember wondering this at the time, like you charge them a decent amount, and like was that just for personal training or for like whole nutritional? Yeah. So the pillars of the offer was sleep, nutrition, body, mind, time, focus. So it was like 6 pillars we built out. That was after working with a bunch of clients and like kind of consolidated that as the offer, but it was all online. All of it was online. So yeah, I was working with people like other people in the info product space, like Dan Bass, people like Lenny and Nick Banks, who are now doing really well with their info product service, Bastian Slot as well, who's doing really well with his info product and coaching offer. People like that, and I was charging them $5,000 for the service. What, per month or just flat out? No, flat out, yeah. And then was that ongoing or what? Yeah, it would have been ongoing, yeah. So how long would they get for $5,000? So initially it would have been 3 months, and then after that I was working for some clients for like 2 years. Oh, so yeah, pretty sick. Yeah. And would they pay you again, or was? Yeah. It'd be the same fee every time. So every 3 months. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty lit. Yeah, it was good. It was a good model. I mean, it was just a lot of, to a degree, trading time for money until I productized. So I like tested loads of different systems because obviously I invested in courses like Sam Alvin's course by that point as well.
Yeah.
So I was learning how to scale, but he's always talking about productizing straight away as soon as you have proof of concept to scale. And I didn't think that was really applicable to a health offer because I thought everyone would want the one-to-one aspect. So I brought on a team of coaches, just 2 of them, and they were delivering the one-to-one service. And I was basically scaling the business. And then we productized after that.
And these, like, were they all entrepreneurs?
Yeah, all of them.
And do you think that niche was good because A, they had money, assumingly, because most people wouldn't pay that, or couldn't pay that. So did you think it was more about them actually giving a shit about their health, or because they had personal brands, they wanted to be seen to have a coach?
Yeah, both. I heavily relied on and leveraged the fact that I was working with 6, 7, 8 figure earners, so people doing like at times $1 million a month, and I could then basically talk about that when I was selling the offer.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's more like a status thing as well, because realistically, most men would rather pride themselves on how much money they earn rather than how healthy they are.
Yeah.
So when I was then showing the case studies, I was always referring to people who were doing like $1 million a month or like 500K a month, rather than what I'd done with their health. And as a result, I just sold the offer really, really well. So I combined both variables of health and making money together in one offer, basically.
Yeah, it's like a win-win.
Yeah. And as a result, like even the people that were like speaking to one another in our Slack channels as well, they'd start communicating with one another, share ideas, stuff like that. But it also massively benefited me because I got to learn about how to build info products from these people. Yeah. They were doing like so much money. So at one point, Dan Vass, who's in the e-commerce info product space, he flew me out to Toronto for a week to film some videos. And I basically just got to see how he worked, like how he operated. And he was doing like, I think it was like 500 grand a month at the time. Yeah. It was just really, really interesting seeing how he ran the company. He had like a few employees underneath him, all of which had shares in the business or like percentage based. So I got to see that model and I was like, okay, well, this is viable then. Yeah. So that was really, really interesting.
Is Dan Vass the bloke that like had this massive course but had never actually built a brand or an e-com store?
Yeah. So I found that out later. Yeah.
You probably can't comment.
But
no, I always find that interesting. But at the end of the day, I guess if the course works, then
well, that's the thing. Like the team that he put together were people that were generating like serious cash from drop shipping and Amazon.
It's a pretty smart model.
He was servicing both variables of that. So drop shipping and then obviously Amazon FBA. Yeah. So he had 2 different offers under one umbrella of e-com freedom. So it was really, really interesting seeing that and seeing how he built that because he didn't need to be the person that knew all the stuff. Yeah, very true. Which was basically what we do when we partner with influencers now. So I kind of replicated that model to a degree. And
how long did you do? Are you still doing that?
Peak.
Is that Peak Performance Program?
No.
When did that end and why?
That ended like about 2 months ago, not very long ago. Reason being is because we started building products for other like experts or influencers who had an audience. So we partnered with them on that. And I saw that as being, we got proof of concept and I was like, right, this has legs. We can take this pretty far. And also if we set up a team and like the operations behind that, we can scale that pretty drastically. And I can then teach other coaches how to do what I've done as well. And as a result, scale the business to pretty substantial heights.
So that's the plan now. So the info productions thing. Yeah. And then also you've productized teaching other people how to do it, basically.
Yeah.
And is that just in the health niche or no?
No. It's in the array of niches. So we've got real estate, e-commerce, digital marketing, health and performance. Yeah. I'm even teaching Brittany how to build out a finance offer. So
yeah, sick.
Yeah. Once you know how to build an info product or a course, you can apply it to any different niche. It's the same template. You just need to learn how to find an audience that can purchase your product and is a niche and then build an offer which solves their problem, basically. It's as simple as.
Yeah, so you've gone from personal trainer, so basically job and then slightly higher paying job because you got better at it.
Yeah.
To self-employed, like high paid time for money, then productizing it, and now also trying to build a company that you can remove yourself from it, but by doing the same things basically across multiple different niches.
Like actually exit from. Yeah. Because I've seen so many people in the info product space, like fairly big names as well, try and exit from their info products. And because they're built.
Didn't Sam Evans tried to do that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
and he just started building out his tech business, SaaS business. That's my understanding so far. He started to build out a school. Yeah. And as a result, he's trying to scale a school. And having seen an interview with, I can't remember who like his head of operations was, Nick. I can't remember what his surname was. He had an interview and he was talking about the fact that consulting.com could have scaled to like 50 million a year. And that's what Nick wanted to do, but Sam wanted to build out a school as a software. Yeah. So that was what he did basically.
Yeah, geez, Sam Evans such a meme. I feel like I used to watch his shit all the time. He seems to have disappeared unless I'm just not in his targeting anymore. He's just not running ads.
Yeah, I don't think they're even running ads.
He was fucking everywhere. I remember seeing the first ad of him and I thought he was like a complete like scam guru. But then I realised that he wasn't as much. And it was just like him with some panther statue in a New York penthouse or whatever.
Yeah. It's just like, penthouse.
That was the first ad I ever saw. It probably fucking worked.
Oh no, it converted so well.
Yeah, that's what I saw everywhere.
30 plus mil a year at one point.
Yeah, he was like a reincarnation of Ty Lopez's famous Here in My Garage.
Yeah, he actually ran a JV with Ty Lopez at one point.
Oh, really?
And basically acquired a ton of his audience.
I started seeing Ty Lopez ads as well recently, again.
I actually met Ty Lopez.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Maddox.
Oh, I thought you said Gymbox as well.
No.
He was in Gymbox a few
years
ago,
he was in Gymbox. Oh, yeah, me and Tyler were boxing and Ty Lopez was in there. No, I met him in Maddox. It's a club in London, which was such a weird thing.
Yeah, I think I've only ever been there once. I think it was
when we went.
It was after that party where we met, I think. Or was it another time?
No, we all went. There's a video. Like, Fred's wearing a shirt as well, I remember it. And he's got a totally different haircut. We all look so young in that video, but... I met Ty Lopez. He pulled up with his team. There was like a team of bodyguards and all these girls, which I now know he paid to be there.
Oh, of course he did. It's part of the brand,
quite funny. But he's pulled up on a McLaren. All his team were in there, got a table, and we had a table next to him, and it was just such a weird moment. It was just like, that's bizarre.
To be fair, like I've always thought that's probably the biggest benefit of having a sick personal brand, even though in certain niches, like probably the Ty Lopez niche, like the make money online niche, there's like, well, I suppose I've probably faced more abuse by not even being a guru, but there's like potentially prone to some like people saying, oh, you're a scam or whatever, but it's one of the only businesses where you can probably expense like all those girls.
Yeah.
You could literally get like Thai hookers for a video and fucking expense it probably, and it'd be legitimate because that's your sales material, like the whole lifestyle thing.
No, exactly.
Maybe Thai hookers is a bit far, but
we could have leveraged that as a case study.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, definitely.
Like cars, like you get a bottle in a bloody bottle in London for like $5,000, and that would be a legitimate business expense.
Well, so many people do that. Which
I feel like a lot of people have copped onto, like people that like finance Lamborghinis and shit. And
yeah, I mean, like the info product space is an interesting one because obviously it just became like seriously extreme as a result of like Ty Lopez and like like flexing cars, flexing lifestyle, that kind of stuff. And now it's coming like back to the point where if you're just transparent about your numbers, don't flex things, and you actually do provide legitimate value, people will purchase from you. Yeah,
because I noticed that about Sam Evans. Maybe I didn't follow him at the start, but like I started to think, oh, this guy's legit because he wasn't flexing lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I've noticed that, like the pandemic, so to speak, of like Forex traders, which I feel like has stopped because there was some FCA something a year ago or whatever.
That was so harsh, yeah.
Like that was like probably more guru-y than any e-com stuff. In fact, it definitely was, because it was like borderline fraudulent what a lot of them were doing. Selling, I think when they were getting commissions from getting people to sign up to addictive gambling sites and shit. And yeah, it became such a meme. Like you get a Lamborghini Huracan, you sell a course about something that you've never even done. Like, yeah, it just became a meme. And there's, definitely a few like third party friends of friends or whatever that I know have done that sort of shit, or I know of. I don't know them very well. But yeah, now I feel like it's the opposite of that. People see through that a bit more now.
Yeah, I mean, another reason as to why that is also like the updates to iOS, and as a result, Facebook ads, you can't really leverage it as well in terms of CPAs or. Yeah, it's pretty screwed up in that respect. So if you want to scale, you really need to cultivate like an organic audience, to be fair, and as a result, nurture those individuals. So you're not going to face so much with PUC because you're not targeting cold audiences as much. Yeah. So that's another factor, but it also means that then the audience you are nurturing, you do need to be legit and as a result trustworthy. Yeah,
people are just more aware of like everything being smoke and mirrors online, aren't they? Like obviously not everyone. There's still a market of like 16-year-old vulnerable people in every market, which people will probably still go for, but.
Yeah, of course.
Although a bit of me does think when I had a financed supercar and a penthouse, why didn't I monetize that into like a course at the time? But I just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It would have sold if you're providing a legitimate product, then there's no issue with that.
Yeah,
but the thing is, if you're not providing a legitimate product and you're just flexing a lifestyle, that's awful. That's really, really bad. Like that's one of the products that I fell for when I first purchased. And it was like 15 grand USD. It's a lot of money. Like to me, I actually signed a contract which was paid over a year. I was 19. It was just like, that's awful. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that whole like everyone definitely falls to that. I mean, I definitely bought a course. I think it was like called like Mobile Monopoly or some bollocks in like 2010. It wasn't even e-commerce. I don't even know what it was. It was like making money from apps or something. But like you think, like obviously everyone knows that's a scam or smoke and mirrors. But obviously if you're like 16 or whatever, or like 16, 17, 18, it's easy to look at it now and think, oh, that's obviously like bollocks. Or these forex traders are selling a fake dream. But if you're like just out of school, which is who they go for.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem. Like, yeah, you fall for that stuff, really. There was actually one time, I remember like 2 years ago, I don't think, it wasn't like a Forex guy, but it was an Instagram influencer or whatever. And he took a picture next to my car and it had like 200,000 likes. And he photoshopped the colour of his shoes and jacket to match the car. And I think, I don't know if he said it was his car, but like he put it up being like his car. And obviously people bought into the fact, I don't know what he was selling, he was probably selling something, but...
Yeah, it must have been, yeah.
It's just, that's just one of a billion examples of...
But if you look at the people that have really now succeeded in like the coaching and info product space, like Alex Hormozy, obviously now runs acquisition.com.
Yeah, I was listening to his book earlier.
Which has 8 companies underneath the umbrella and they're doing like 100, 120 million a year. But with his one product gym launch, he was doing like 30, 50 million a year, in which he was helping gym business owners scale basically and become more profitable. And like that product alone, he was charging like 40 to 50 grand for. There's no aspect of flexing a lifestyle at all. Like the guy's very anti-flexing in every respect. And he's actually now the person that's probably one of the more successful people in the info product space because he's legitimate and the amount of value he provides and free content and the fact
I've started following him recently, to be fair.
No, it's really, really interesting.
There's that graph, I don't know what it's called, where it can be applied to so many things. I saw it on Twitter again recently about like crypto and it's like low IQ, like 70 IQ doesn't do something. So in this case, like flex is all the lifestyle bollocks. Like average IQ, like 110 or whatever, thinks, I need to flex all this stuff. And then like super high IQ, like 140, is like the stupid person, doesn't flex all this stuff. The example was about crypto, like just buy it. Oh, it's a scam, just buy it. But I guess you could apply it to like, need to flex.
Apply it to any make, model,
like don't flex, need to flex, don't flex. So guys like him are examples of don't need to flex because they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And
it comes like full circle.
I fell victim to it, so I'm not one that's going to utilize that as being something which I kind of build my offer on my business.
Is that why you don't wear your Richard Mille on interviews? I was like, because you're not going yet.
Repping the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
It's normally the gold tier Casio, the gold Casio.
To be fair, I've actually got to the point now where I feel like an Apple Watch and the gold Casio is genuinely cooler than a Rolex. Because the Rolex Datejust has become a meme.
Yeah, it's become a meme.
I have one, but it's become a meme.
I bought my first Rolex was a sub and then I got a Datejust and I just felt like an absolute idiot.
Because everyone's gone.
At one point I met this dude and he was like, he was worth a couple of bill and I just felt like such an idiot. I was like some like 20 or 21 year old. I just felt like such a twat. And he had nothing on him, obviously. He was just very humble. And I'm not saying that's the way in which you have to live in order to attain success, but I just felt like an idiot. And also it further like boosted my ego to the extent where I was becoming complacent with shit. It was just a pretty nasty cycle. So for me personally, and also in London, it's kind of a security risk. Like,
to be fair,
going out, I've heard quite a few stories about people like being past the fag or whatever, and it's got whatever in it, knocks them out, they get their watch taken off them. There's some pretty bad stories. So I'd rather not be wearing something that's like worth like 10 grand on my wrist.
Because I bought my first Rolex in like early summer, like May 2018. It was a Milgauss, which is like the cheapest Rolex, but it was pretty cool in hindsight because not many people wear them. But I got it stolen off my wrist 2 months later in Barcelona. I was like paralytic coming out of a club at 4 a.m. and it was like definitely a professional operation in hindsight, because I just remember not even noticing it for like 10 minutes, then be like, oh fuck, they like squeezed my wrist or something and it wasn't insured, and that was a life lesson. But you definitely feel just like it is almost cooler. It's like the same thing with like cars and shit as well, just general lifestyle. Like I've had some nice cars, now I don't have a car. Watch the first episode. But I'll have a nice one again in the future. But there is a freedom to it in a way.
Oh, massively. Like,
because you just think like, first I've got nothing to prove to anyone.
There's a few ways to think about it really, because like last month I did 100 grand and like I know a lot of people that would have just gone and blown quite a lot of that money. But like there's a few ways which I think about it now. It's like I don't want to be spending that much money and be perceived as being that person, because I don't want to attract those kind of people around me. And I also want to know that I've got like a legitimate relationship with someone that actually cares for me rather than just there for my money. I think that's also really important. And then another variable is like, obviously I lost my dad last year, and knowing that I can actually help my mum out is way more significant than going and buying something or like spending money and just spunking it basically. So Because I had that experience. Like I got my first Rolex, and then my dad was going through chemotherapy. I was like, I'm wearing like a 10 grand watch and I haven't helped my parents out. I was like, that's so backward. So yeah, it's got rid of that ASAP.
Yeah, it's kind of deep.
Yeah, no, but it's legit.
Do you reckon you always thought that, or did that change over time?
What do you mean?
Like thinking that, I mean, obviously it changes because everyone grows up, but did that experience with your dad like just further that? Like you want to help your parents and shit, help your mum?
Yeah, I was like, said to my parents, particularly when I was like 18, I was leaving home basically. I said to them, I'll retire you guys.
Yeah.
Like, I always said that, and I'd like retire them to Bahamas or whatever, Barbados.
Yeah.
Always said that. And then obviously my desire to see that drastically improve when I realised that my dad's got cancer. And I was like, well, shit, I really need to help my mum out in the future if that goes wrong, kind of thing. But then also like, I was never someone that was like aspiring to attain like a luxury lifestyle, to be fair. I just always wanted to build a business, like legitimately build a business.
Yeah.
I didn't care about I didn't even know anything about Rolexes till I moved to London. I had no clue. I didn't go clubbing until I met, like, that's the first time I went clubbing.
Yeah, to be fair, like London clubbing is something else. Like, as in it's just such a scam. Like, London clubbing is a prime example of just like, I feel like obviously there's a load of actually really rich people, but it's quite a tragic scene.
Yeah.
Like people that seem to go there on like Monday nights and shit. I always think like, who the hell is in a London club on a table on a Monday night?
I've been once.
But because I saw someone on Instagram like earlier doing it. I'm not going to say who it was, but yeah, gee, I mean, it's just a different someone that isn't me, I suppose.
Oh, it's like
maybe proper, if I'm retired, I'd do that.
Proper degenerate vibes.
Yeah, I feel like it's either, I don't know, just like family money or just like dons that are retired and don't give a fuck. Like they've actually made big bucks. Or probably genuinely family money.
Or making money illegally.
Yeah, I do
like,
get that vibe.
There's a lot of that.
Because like you said, like I feel like most actual entrepreneurs, people that genuinely like were doing whatever they're doing before it was like cool and fucking popular on TikTok, weren't doing it for the money. They're doing it originally because they actually liked it. Yeah. Like I was certainly like that with like e-commerce brands and shit. I was doing it back in like 2013. And yeah, I'm still after it, even though there's probably a lot easier ways to make money. Mm. And sounds like it's similar for you.
Oh yeah, no, it always has been. Like, it's a cliche, like everyone's watched Dragon's Den when they're a kid.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's sick. They own something, they've built a business, and they're passionate about it. And I always wanted to do that with my own life, rather than, obviously I wanted to, create financial abundance and move forward and create generational wealth, which is still very much a desire of mine. But yeah, I wasn't going to do it for the purpose of like flexing, because I'm really happy with like our mates. Like collectively as a group, like we're solid mates. We don't need to like go and flex to other people wherever it may be. And also, it's my mates from home. Like we're all very down to earth people. Yeah, and it prevents complication from arising. I feel like the more money you flex, or like your lifestyle you flex, the more complicated your life becomes quite quickly. Yeah, definitely. Like the more negative attention you bring, the more. Yeah,
one thing as well, like, I used to notice more on like. There obviously are people, like obviously shit like cars and so on, particularly in London, like there's probably more fucking millionaires in London than anywhere in the, well of course there is, like probably more than anywhere in the world. Like even just around here you'll see like a Rolls Royce every fucking 10 minutes probably, or something sick. But one thing I used to notice in like uni and stuff, or just like when you're younger, and it probably still happens now, but like lads in their early 20s, and I know a few of them from back home, who are literally like in some crappy like temporary job or whatever on like 15 grand a year. And they're buying like Stone Island jackets for 700 quid, or like a Gucci t-shirt, which I mean, maybe it's just not my thing. Like people could argue, oh, like you bought cars and watches or whatever, but at least those things are experiential or hold the value a little bit. I don't know. I've just never understood the design of the fashion thing ever.
Yeah, neither. Me and Brittany were laughing at that. But like we went into Selfridges on Friday night because I was like, we were about to go out for Fred's thing. Yeah. And I was like, I actually don't have any t-shirts that I can wear. So I was like, right, I need to go and get like a black t-shirt from somewhere, and Selfridges is the only place open. Yeah. And I went around, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not paying 200 quid for a t-shirt. So I copped one, it was like 50 quid. It was like the cheapest one in Selfridges I could find. But like everyone else in there, like you could just see people working like a 9 to 5, they're earning, nothing wrong with it, but earning like 30 grand a year. Going into LV, spending like 700, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I actually, it's kind of similar again. Like, I think I've seen some meme or whatever, like LV and Gucci designed for broke people. Yeah. I feel like it's actually true though. Yeah. Like, obviously, like certain people are genuinely into their fashion and whatever. But yeah, it's just, there's probably no more like product example of just like ridiculous spending habits purely to flex on Instagram than like designer clothing. I can't think of another example.
I think I own like 2 bits of designer stuff, 2 or 3 bits tops.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of them being Comme des Garçons, which I don't really regard as being like designer. Or like, I just quite like
LV, Gucci, or whatever, I don't think.
And I got a pair of like shoes from Giuseppe Zanotti, and it was like in a discount, like 150 quid or something, down from like 600. I was like, right, I'm getting them. That's it. But like, it's also just relationships. Like, I don't want to attract someone that is there for money or like wants this flex like designer stuff and all that. Like, I want someone that I'm actually like happy with, and that's been really key for me the whole time, really. Particularly given that like
Brittany likes designer shit though.
Yeah, but it's all like she buys it herself.
Yeah.
Like I haven't bought anything.
Yeah.
Like I would never want to be in a relationship with someone that makes me want to like buy her stuff all the time, particularly in our 20s. Like there's no way I'm going to be buying like 5, 10, whatever grand something is, when I could be giving that money either to my mum or putting it back into my business and education. Like there's no way.
Jeez, you could talk about like girls and relationships for a whole fucking episode, but I feel like that's why, as a pretty good rule of thumb, you're not going to meet your future wife in a nightclub.
Oh,
generally speaking.
Definitely.
There's probably exceptions to that, but certainly not in like a central Mayfair London one.
No.
Because it's literally just, what's the correct term? Vultures.
Yeah, we call them bottle rats.
I think I said to
which is pretty bad.
To Andy at the table the other day, and I didn't realise they were his friends or whatever, his girls. I don't know if friends is the right term, but I said, who the fuck are these vultures? And he said, oh, they're with me or whatever, and it's kind of awkward. But
yeah, this is like, even on Friday.
So many of them.
Like, well, it was just us boys, and then Brittany, and then another girl that was with one of our friends as well. And then like, you just see girls shuffling towards the table. Yeah. It's just like, really? Are you really trying to do that? Like, we're just trying to have our own fun, please. Just politely piss off kind of thing. Yeah,
girls are complicated creatures.
Yeah, and they can, like, I don't want to sound dramatic, but they actually can ruin your life. Like,
you were having a pretty bad experience, weren't you, about 2 years ago? A year ago.
Awful.
A year and a half ago.
Really, really bad. But like, I don't think anyone's like innately bad, but they can do certain things which can have a massively negative impact on you. And it can like totally prevent you from having any bandwidth and any energy that you can apply towards your business or your family life or your personal life. It removes it and it becomes all encompassing, which is insane. Yeah.
Another thing with girls, this is probably going to get too controversial, but like I feel like everyone's discussed this, like, because some people say like, oh, would you want to date like a girl who's also entrepreneurial or whatever? I feel like it's good if they understand it to an extent, but like there's one girl in my mind I'm thinking of, which I'm not going to name, which I wouldn't want to date, who you probably know as well.
I think we've already spoken about it. Yeah.
And I feel like, they probably have to understand what you're doing and support it, but I don't know if it's just an egotistical thing. Yeah, I'd probably still rather be... Like, I might sound like a cunt saying this, but I would find it hard to be in a relationship with a girl that was running like £100 million business if I wasn't doing that as well. Like, if they were just... I don't know what you think. Is that controversial or not?
I wouldn't say it's controversial. I think it's pretty normal.
Is that just... I've just got, like, bad self-esteem or something?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's like a reflection of self-esteem. I think partly it might be, but I also think it's the way in which you want to live your life in terms of like having a dissociation between your relationship and work as well, or like to that. Whereas for me personally, like the people that I want to model are Alex and Layla Hormozy, because they built acquisition.com together.
Yeah, true.
And like Brittany's now joining me for Info Productions, and she's going to be quitting her job, and I actually want us to do that together. Because like she understands all nuances of it. She's got different skill sets to me, stuff that I can't do, she can do really, really well. And we've lived together for a whole year throughout lockdown.
Yeah.
And it's like, and been through the loss of my dad, like other stuff in her personal life as well. I don't really see anything that can go that much worse than that, and you to come out of it properly.
So she like 50-50 on that business, or what? What's the setup?
Yeah,
Let's come back to that for a minute.
We will be. Yeah.
And do you think she will add as much value to that as you, or is that more just because it's a convenience thing?
Add as much value because the way she thinks about
She's
things.
She's probably watching and say you have to say the right thing.
No, but I'm being honest. Like otherwise, I wouldn't have partnered with her. Like I wouldn't have seen any need to do so. She adds value in so many different areas that I'm not well versed in. Like for example, like she currently operates in a finance and accounting role within her e-commerce business, and they're doing, I think it's like near 20 mil a year.
Yeah.
I don't know anything to that level in terms of how to manage that aspect of things, nor do I want to. I want to be front end. I want to be dealing with marketing. Someone else to do with operations. Someone else to do with like financial and accounting and those systems. And then obviously eventually we'll then combine roles or we'll have to switch in and out of different things, etc. But like also having seen her work for the past year in lockdown, because obviously all worked in the same flat basically.
Yeah.
Like I get to see how she then handles things or deals with different things, and it's just like, oh, actually that can be really conducive to what we do. So to me personally, that, and I know.
Yeah, I can definitely see the benefit. I think that's rare, to be fair.
Oh yeah, like even if it wasn't my girlfriend, I would have wanted to bring in someone that had that skill set.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely rare. That it is your girlfriend.
Yeah, no, that's
she's
like
not like some middle-aged bloke.
But I was actually watching content from Alex and Layla, because I just like spam watch their content at times, particularly when like eating food and stuff. They were talking about they were kind of reverse engineered their relationship, where they ensured they were compatible first with their personal lives and business lives before falling in love and getting married. I'm not saying that I did that with Brittany, but it was really interesting because like I first met her and I saw that she was taking her career seriously and like had different skills that I wasn't at all well versed in, but she understood the principles, what contributed to my success. I was like, oh wow, like actually we could actually have a life together, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because I definitely think most people they'll probably don't think about that, to be fair, and that might be why statistically a lot of people break up or get divorced when they're older or whatever.
Yeah, because I think it's so easy to like fall in love. I genuinely think you can fall in love with anyone that you're attracted to, even if you hate their personality or dislike it.
Yeah, it's like infatuation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the word. I've definitely had that in the past when I was a bit younger. Like, I'd go through phases of, I can think of a few now, like 2 to 3 months of this girl that was not remotely compatible and was probably like a net negative on my life by far. But for whatever reason, you just like convince yourself that you want to marry them almost.
Yeah, no, I had that.
And then you wake up like a month later and like, what the fuck was I thinking?
I had that in the relationship with the girl that I was with before Brittany.
Yeah.
And it was like insane. It was nuts. And it literally was making me so incredibly unhappy. It was insane. So yeah, I kind of learned from that experience. But I think that's what you're meant to learn from when you're young, right? You're meant to make mistakes and learn from it. So
yeah, definitely.
Provided you actually learn a lesson and take stuff into account next time.
Another question on that then, that a lot of people, like what we talk about it, and I suppose a lot of people probably say it in general, is like some people have this like mindset that like a girlfriend is just distraction, all this, and whereas other people think obviously can be massively beneficial, and other people think it's probably somewhere in between. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think the right girl, even if they're not your future wife, can be definitely a net benefit, because if anything, it's just less distracting. Because when I was single, and I haven't been for like a year now, which is a world record for me. But well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I probably used to spend like half an hour at least, just probably an hour a day on like Hinge and fucking Instagram and shit, and then it's quite a chase to like constantly be trying to meet girls and stuff.
Yeah, and it occupies a lot of your time and also your energy.
Yeah, it really does. So
it actually really does.
And then the flip side is people that say, oh, it's a distraction, and then therefore don't have a girlfriend, and because they think it's a distraction, don't even like speak to girls, end up becoming like this fucking celibate virgin figure when they're making all this money, which ends up being the ultimate irony. It's like, is celibate the right word?
Yeah.
Where you don't have sex?
Yeah, celibate.
Yeah, they end up becoming this like monk figure, which they think, I guess it comes back to like, particularly like earlier stage entrepreneurs, maybe like the first year or two of like making money or whatever, and we're still early stage, but I've definitely understood this bit a bit better. And yeah, there's a few people I can think of, which won't be named, who they've gone through this whole like, oh, having a girlfriend's like almost cringe because it's like distracting. And then it's like, well, you're making all this money, or you're trying to be successful, but one of the biological things that men are meant to want to be successful for, which is to attract a mate or women, etc. Like that is fundamentally what a lot of people go after. If you break it all down, you're not getting, because you're saying it's a distraction, which is like the ultimate irony.
Yeah, it's
an interesting one.
I see their point, but I think the way in which people articulate that is pretty poor in the main, in terms of their point of like being single is key. I think like being single, being able to be alone is really, really important.
Yeah.
And like having that experience in your life, like particularly for me personally, the age of like 18 to 20, where I didn't go on a single date. Like I didn't go out either.
Yeah.
Like just because I was working, and I actually learned to enjoy my company. That was really interesting for me. And then also when my dad died, when my dad died like 2 weeks before lockdown, I had to move back here after that. I was literally like alone in the middle of lockdown after losing my dad.
Yeah, fuck that.
Most like painful experience, but because I was alone, I learned so much about myself.
Yeah.
And like I learned how to boost myself, or like how to get myself going to do certain things without needing to depend on someone else. So to me personally, that again, it was like another just example of like, if things happen, I can deal with it.
Yeah.
And then
so true.
like I wasn't looking for a relationship. Like meeting Brittany was just totally by coincidence. And if anything, I was like very anti-relationship at the time, but
yeah, I think that's definitely the best way for it to go, to be fair. Like it's pretty off the cuff. It's like blokes that go out on nights out when they're just like, and they're like, oh, I need to pull or whatever. And then you never pull. Of course you don't.
Yeah.
It's like that rule kind of applies to a lot of things in life. If you force it, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know, like we've spoken about this before. Like I feel like the best relationships that we've seen, or at least in like within our like friendship circle, either come from like referrals. We said, where it's like through friends of friends, or it's just like totally off. Yeah,
it's probably similar to a lot of good brands and businesses. There's a lot of word of mouth and like referral rather than just always cold ads or whatever, like you were saying before.
Yeah, no, it actually is.
It's actually mad how much like real life principles flow into like business and e-commerce and marketing, and vice versa.
Yeah, massively. And yeah, also in terms of like people again like saying they don't want to have a girlfriend whilst they build a business, like to me I think business and your life goes hand in hand, so why have disparity between the two? And like at some point you're gonna want to have a partner, but you're still operating a business, so like it kind of contradicts itself as a point.
I think that's interesting, to be fair, because a lot of people, and again I think it's when people are less experienced, and myself included, and I feel like in the last year started to understand it and get out of that, is they think, oh, I'm gonna work for like 5 years or whatever, then I'll sell this business, or then I'll have made it and made all this money, and then I'm gonna not have to work and I'll have time for like life. But then it's like,
that's really backward.
Firstly, like if you had £1 billion today, realistically you wouldn't just want to sit on a beach. Like you actually wouldn't. Like granted, you might not do everything that you do, and like I'd probably fucking go and make a horror film or something. I wouldn't just, maybe I'd probably do brand building as well, but like obviously it'd be slightly different, but you wouldn't just want to do nothing. And I think that's what a lot of people like ignorantly are like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking go sit on a beach or whatever. But of course you wouldn't. That's just like childish talk in a way.
That's what you see in a movie.
Yeah, it actually is.
It's the dream that's presented, when the reality is that if you've gone to the extent where like you've pretty much sacrificed everything to build a business and you put yourself through the mill, like you're gonna want to do something again. Like in order to maintain your like both your sanity and also just your mental well-being, like your happiness.
Yeah, that's another side of it as well, which again, like in the past year I've started to realise, I don't know if it's because I went through so much stress and realised it wasn't worth it, but like I think particularly like beginners, whatever, and I still consider myself a beginner, but I'm talking literally people that have like just started a Shopify store or whatever it is for the first time, and they're like, oh, I'm working 21 hours a day, like, which A, you're not anyway, you're probably working 14 hours a day, but like B, that's not healthy, and like C, if you are, then you're just, you're working hard but not smart, and like obviously it takes time to figure out how to work smarter, and like, but it's just not healthy, like it's probably the main point. Yeah, I mean, it's not sustainable. Like if you can't do something sustainly, you can't. Yeah, then there's no point. Then it's not a good threshold to work at.
Yeah,
I think I was listening to some Steve Bartlett podcast, and he was speaking about that or something. And like I looked at my I've set up like a calendar on Google, which is like my ideal day, which I set up like a few months ago, to be fair. But it's like the actual work in it's probably only like 7.5, 8 hours.
Yeah, well, I think that's what you need.
Because anyone's saying they're working more than that anyway. Because actually, if you do 8 hours of deep work, or like relatively deep work per day, then you can fucking move mountains anyway, for a start. But secondly, like any more than that, because like obviously, and that's like over 14 hours a day almost. By the time you've like had a break, had lunch, gone to the gym, walked this fucking dog, and like sat down. So yeah, like 8 hours. And whereas previously I might have thought, oh, I'm working 12 hours a day, and then a few years before that, I might have aspired or told people that I'm working 15 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, like
which you're not.
We grew up through like that entrepreneurship generation of Gary Vee wannabes.
Yeah, it's so true.
And he was always preaching like the grind, like sleep when you're dead mentality for ages, and he's now kind of like flipped on that, but he was preaching that massively, and as a result we all kind of grew up and that was cultivated. But like one thing that raised that point to me massively was I listened to a podcast, and this was in lockdown, with Tobias Lutker and Tim Ferriss, so CEO of Shopify, and he's got a family, and he's talking about the fact that he works like strictly 9 to 5 or somewhere within that parameter and takes weekends off.
The founder of Shopify does?
Yeah. CEO. So he was actually an engineer, so he didn't found the company, but he's now the CEO. But I was like, well, I mean, he's running like...
He's worth like 10 billion, isn't he?
Yeah, like what's Shopify worth? And he's operating within those hours. And I was like, but people that are running a 10k a month business are supposedly working 20 hours a day or something very
like, obviously they're like unicorn examples, but I think Bezos spoke about it as well. Like, like basically works like 8 hours a day and like has weekends off. But then the flip side of that, which I've seen on Twitter recently, and I'm not sure where I stand on it, probably somewhere in between, is like people are saying, oh yeah, but he has to work 18 hours a day for the first 5 years only because he's a CEO, blah, 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 that he can do this now. But then other people argue, and I think I probably agree with it to an extent, no, it's because he's smart and he understands A, how to get more done in less time, and B, that if he's working 18 hours a day, he'll burn out and not make good decisions.
Yeah, again, he can limit his hours because he has a team and a structure in place, obviously. Anyone that's scaled can do that, and as a result, they can outsource work and facilitate growth at the same time. But like the people that, even when I was running Peak, and as I said, like I went to see Dan, and obviously I was with people like Eman and stuff like that, they were creating huge amounts of financial success at a very, very young age.
Yeah.
And the way in which they chose to do so, or like ensure that happened, was by actually enforcing very strict rules where they wouldn't work beyond a certain point, or they had to get said tasks done by a certain point.
Yeah.
And as a result, they actually took more action to ensure that happened. And also they built a team around them. Whereas most people will then rock up and on a daily basis have a list of like 10 things to do, no parameters in terms of like time frame on said goal.
Yeah.
And as a result, you get 2 things done because they have such an open diary or open book. So I think like having a time, like actually knowing when you work best is really important personally. And for me personally, it's between the hours of like 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. Like I find that to be my zone because no one else is up. I'm not being bored by my messages and I'm getting ahead of the game. Basically, to me, it works really well.
Yeah, like, I find I religiously can't work in like the early to mid afternoon. Like 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. is like no man's land for me. Like pretty much 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. probably. Even like 2 till 6 in a way.
Yeah.
That's why I go to the gym and go sauna and shit in that time.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone's different, but I feel like a lot of people probably can't work as well in the afternoon because like generally you've had lunch or whatever, you're less clear-headed. Yeah,
and also that's the best time for you to train because your body temperature is the highest anyway, so like you should be
there we go. That's why he's the expert.
That's stuff at Peak. But yeah, again, it's like I also know people that are incredibly successful that are total night owls. They work throughout the night. Yeah. That's fine. They just know when they work best, you know?
Something else I've read on Twitter as well. I started becoming obsessed with Twitter. I never used to use it until like literally 2 months ago, which is mad. Amazing. I poisoned my mind with Instagram and never went on Twitter, which actually has information rather than just spam.
And you're a TikTok fan as well.
Yeah, I went through a TikTok phase because Liv got me into it. But then I've gone off it a bit, to be fair. It's just videos of sausage dogs and then like fat American Texan girls saying like, my name's something, I go to Texas State Christian Church.
Classic.
Something like that. That probably sound weird on this microphone. But what was I saying? Yeah, like people are saying now it's like the information revolution or something, whatever it is. And it basically is like everyone's got access to fucking everything and like so much leverage potential due to the internet, which is what I realized as well. It's like, fuck, I should probably just make a podcast instead of not making one and just thinking about things because then it can reach people. But the point was, if you're working way too much and like burnt out all the time, etc., then you make worse quality decisions. And Jeff Bezos spoke about it as well. And obviously that's like a unicorn example again, but it's kind of true because it's like now more than ever, like every decision you make, particularly if you're publishing stuff or creating stuff or like doing ads at scale, whatever it is, even just writing something on like LinkedIn or Instagram, it like has more effect than ever before because it can be seen by more people than ever before. And it can have a positive or negative impact on anything more than before. So it's like, why would you spend 18 hours a day, hypothetically, working on something if you can do 8 hours of like quality decision making? Even on a small scale, because it doesn't have to be like, oh, I can only make quality decisions if I'm a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. But it could literally just be as simple as, where should I focus my time? And just thinking about that rather than just constantly trying to do a billion things, which I've been guilty of as well.
We all have. I also think the majority of people are way too complacent in terms of like, I could do that if I was a CEO of a company doing $1 billion. Revenue. But the reality is you can outsource a lot of things either to a VA or someone commission based. Like my sales team, my appointment setting team, so we have 4 team members, they're all commission based. So it's depending on their performance. I pay them no base salary, it's just all commission based. And as a result, I can pay them like 2.5k a week at times. So make loads of money from it, but it means that they're working on my behalf. They're going through my DMs 6 to 8 hours per day, actually taking sales calls 6 to 8 hours per day. All I need to do to then basically move the needle of the business further forward is produce content, nurture my audience, and learn. Yeah. That's literally it. In terms of moving the needle, that's actually it. You just need to know what the contributors towards pushing growth are and then just hone in on them, basically. Yeah. And when they're going through your DMs, are they deleting ones from girls? Or do you not get any from girls? I don't get any from girls, no. Do you not? No. Why is that? Because Brittany's in your bio? I know, like post Brittany like every 3rd post. Yeah, is that like, do you put that in Hey Orca or Hootsuite or something? To make sure you've got a Brittany post every 3 days? No. Is that a contractual agreement? No. No. Is that written into the Info Productions shareholding agreement? Far from it. But interestingly enough, though, also like showing your personal life in that respect helps you sell.
Yeah.
And it's not like you don't need to flex your like net worth or like the amount of money you have in your bank account or anything like that. Just showing like intimate details about your life and your relationship really massively helps you sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose people just think you're more human, don't they?
Yeah, because they trust you more. Like if you're talking about the fact that like you've been through some like actual shit in your life and it's really been quite painful and not everything's been easy, people trust you more because they can relate to you, and also just being honest.
Yeah, I think it comes back to just authenticity again, isn't it? Which is what I was trying to do with this podcast in every episode.
Yeah.
And like coming back to like the whole guru thing as well, like it's just the opposite of authentic, because wasn't there that one case? I don't ever really speak about it, but I don't know him, but I think you knew someone that knew him, and there was some guru that was like living this perfect life on Instagram, and they ended up killing himself. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know his name.
In the e-com space?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually a really good mate of mine. Not quite... Yeah, that was slightly different circumstances.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened, but I just remember, I think someone just said to me, like he was living this perfect life on Instagram, or at least on his like business page.
Yeah, no, it looked perfect, but
that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think.
Whereas if he'd been maybe more, I don't know the full extent of it, but that's obviously an extreme example.
Yeah, I'll explain that a bit more detail, because I don't think that's maybe like an accurate representation of what happened. I think most entrepreneurs either start because they've had like a really messed up childhood, or because they're just passionate about succeeding in life. Right, it's one of those two reasons. You're either pretty insecure, or you've had some kind of like weird messed up childhood.
Yeah.
Right. For me personally, probably because of my insecurities to a degree. And also passion for pushing myself to weird points, like hard shit, basically. I know you're the same, and we've had very good childhoods, right? Like we've had very good family lives, luckily.
Yeah. Whereas
someone like him, and I'm not gonna say his name, but I think quite a few people watching this will probably know. He had a really messed up childhood. Like both parents in prison, was adopted, had to like basically pick things up for himself totally, and then ultimately just couldn't get away from that, and then he just OD'd.
Yeah.
Yeah, but from outside it looked perfect. Like amazing car, two amazing cars, like a pet dog. The amount of money that guy was earning as well, 20 was phenomenal. But yeah, it's just because like his insecurities, which led him to actually building a business, ultimately to a degree what kind of led to his, I suppose, like ill mental health, and then as a result.
Yeah, just think like as a wider point. Like, yeah, that's kind of the problem with Instagram, basically, like the Instagram generation. And like probably Instagram more than any other platform. But like social media in general, but particularly Instagram, it just literally is obviously like a highlight reel. But like to the point where it's such a highlight reel, it's just become like cringe at this point. I mean, obviously like myself included, until probably the odd time I posted like real shit or whatever. But obviously it's easier to speak about in a format like a podcast. You're not going to post an image of you like crying, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually mad, because it's probably the first generation, and the generation after us. I've got cousins who are like 10 who are on Instagram and shit, and it's like, oh, maybe not 10, I don't know, 13.
Yeah, no, my cousins are.
But it's, like, I'm just thinking like, fuck, social media has definitely affected, as I spoke about in the first episode, like negatively in my mind. It's like, fuck, how's it going to affect like 13-year-old girls staring at Kylie Jenner from day one,
so messed
thinking,
up.
I need to get plastic surgery.
Yeah, and then the acceptance of something like OnlyFans.
Yeah,
as well, how that's become like such a societal norm, and that's nuts. Like think about that 30 years ago.
Yeah,
like
we were classy 30 years ago as a society, apparently,
and also like more normal.
Yeah,
people weren't monetizing their bodies or anything like that to that extent, where it's just like literally sexually explicit content, and obviously ultimately
go down the rabbit hole on that one as well. To be fair,
yeah, but I mean that's the way in which like I have different paths now. You either work a 9 to 5, you live at home, like making no money. Yeah. I'm not saying that if you live 9 to 5 you can stay at home, but these are two different options. 9 to 5, you stay at home, you start a business, or you basically sell your body.
Yeah,
like that's kind of the 4 routes you have now, and they've become accepted. Like
on the whole, OnlyFans / like girls just sexualizing themselves. And again, there's like a few people we know of, like not close friends with any of them, but like who definitely do questionable things. And like it's the whole, like there's obviously loads of memes about this shit, but the whole like decent looking dolled up girls who just happen to be in Mykonos and Dubai like literally every other month, certainly through spring and summer, but they couldn't tell you what job they have or what business they're apparently running to pay for these £10,000 private jet flights. and these 5-star hotels which they're miraculously just living in, and then some of them will have like a cute little brand which is probably doing £500 a year in revenue, which apparently pays for all.
Just wait till their accounts are published next year.
Yeah, I just mean like anyone with a brain knows what's going on there. I just wonder, like, and I'm not in that position, and like maybe I wish I was a really sexy girl that could just live arguably an easy life and just sell myself on Instagram or OnlyFans, but are they not going to look at that, or even like their parents, and just think they obviously know what's going on? Like you're a prostitute.
Yeah, basically.
Like you're not an influencer, and I feel like the line between influencer, which originally started maybe like makeup, beauty videos or whatever, and now like because of OnlyFans and just like all this shit, I feel like more and more girls, just without even realizing it, are basically just prostitutes online.
Yeah, and
even if they technically don't sell their body in real life.
It's also then ensuring there's a huge lack of trust between like people in our generation, I think.
Yeah.
Because like in terms of dating someone, you're not going to trust them from the outset to a degree, because that could be the case, particularly if they've got like expensive items, whatever. Yeah. You start to wonder like, okay, where on earth did that come from?
Yeah.
But then also just in terms of then like people being transparent about where they're making their money from, or how they're then actually building a career, there's a lack of transparency for sure. Or like it's very smoke and mirrors. There's a lack of trust between people, definitely.
Yeah. I just think like another like part of that is the whole, like I've never really watched Love Island, and I've been forced to watch it like a few times with Liv, but it's just never been my thing. But like, and this isn't like on like prostitution or whatever, but not just girls either, but there's a whole generation growing up now, like probably like, are we Gen X? I don't know what we are. Like, I guess just like people that are like maybe 15 now as opposed to like mid-20s or whatever, that are growing up, and instead of looking up to like, I don't know, an athlete like Ronaldo or something, like a musician who's actually like got skills and got famous, they're looking up to people that quite literally just applied, and I assume just got picked for whatever reason.
Because of the way they look, and maybe personality.
And like almost got picked for being a cunt in many cases.
Yeah,
and like basically people are looking up now to people that went on Love Island rather than people that have talent and have actually built something with their life. And I'm not saying everyone on Love Island's a cunt or anything. Like obviously it's very productized at this point. Like they're probably like, I doubt they're even real names in many cases now because of all the shit that was happening with like certain contestants like killing themselves and shit. But like it just feels like an epidemic of like social media fakeness,
which has been like even more heightened by lockdown, because no one else had anything other to do than scroll on social media.
Yeah, and just compare themselves to these fake lives.
Like even school was shut down for a while. Like young kids, they just as a result absorbing that kind of content. That's why TikTok blew up. Like look at like Dixon, Charlie D'Amelio, like they literally blew up throughout that time period. Yeah, it's nuts. I understand why people go on like shows like Love Island, because then they can monetize their personal brand and as a result have access to a huge audience which they can then build a business from. It makes perfect sense. But I'd much rather do that through means like the Nelk Boys have done, where they're creating like sick viral content which is reaching the masses on like a phenomenal level, and like Mr. Beast, and as a result on the back end of that build and scale very, very successful businesses. Yeah,
and to be honest, like most people that go on Love Island, I'm stereotyping, but they don't come across the smartest, and I don't think most of them are going to build a very great empire off the back of it. Some of them have, like Molly May, for example, is probably the most successful one.
Yeah, she's doing amazingly well.
Wes Nelson, who we know, obviously,
and he's such a nice guy as well.
Really clearly smart and fucking got a great music career now. So there are exceptions, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably go on it if I got the chance. That's the thing. At least maybe I wouldn't, but like I'd go on it. I can see why I'd go on it, because particularly for someone that doesn't have for someone that ironically maybe doesn't have the ability or skills or desire to build a business or be an athlete or whatever it is, probably more realistically build a business, then obviously it's a great opportunity to, you're basically guaranteed by the looks of it to become a millionaire these days. You go on, you get £1 million plus in brand deals over the next year at least. Definitely. I would imagine. I don't know the exact numbers, but
if you're in a relationship, even better. Like you can monetize that, you can just back.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people want to be that, but I think the problem is it's just, well, maybe it's not a problem. Maybe I'm just old and decrepit, but it just seems weird that people now look up to that instead of like actual heroes that used to be the case. Like, I don't know,
like
talented.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, like he's a great example.
Yeah, like we all looked up to him.
Well, obviously he's way bigger than they ever will be, but
but we all spoke about that when we were kids. We all just used, like, I used to wear a football kit 24/7.
Yeah,
I used to look up to footballers and like maybe to a degree musicians, or then when I started to get a bit older, business people.
It started
to kind of like filter in. But yeah, it's kind of terrifying at the same time what's happening in that respect.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not just saying people like necessarily look up to them as opposed to like an icon like Ronaldo, but like it's more just people want to pursue that as like a career. When firstly, like the reality is, again on Love Island, I don't know what the stats are, but it's probably like 1 in 100,000 people actually make it big off like Love Island, which is like probably less chance than definitely less chance than making a decent business if you build a skill set. Like definitely less chance.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems
the benefit of all this is
weird.
I think it was discussed in the book written by Cal Newport. I can't remember which book it was in particular, but I listened to quite a lot of audiobooks, and it was one of Cal Newport's books in particular. But like, as a result of this and people being distracted 24/7 with like 8-10 hour screen times, like there's no competition for whatever field you want to enter.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
It's much more minimal. Like you're ultimately just being given a massive aid if you want to start a business, because your audience are all on social media, and as a result you can target them through paid ad spend. And then also your competitors, or who would have been your competitors, all wanting to be influencers. And as a result, if you're starting a business, you've got such an incredible opportunity right now. And all you need to do is you need to be a little bit analytical in terms of your thought processes, observe what's happening with things, and just make a product based off what's happening. Yeah,
I suppose just be a creator over a consumer.
Yeah, no, massively. That's so key.
It's something I've always like known, but like I've always thought of it like in an e-com sense. But like even recently, I think I was reading a thread from Naval, who a lot of people probably follow, like the fucking wisest Don ever. I'm not actually entirely sure what that Don does. I just know he's wise, if I'm honest. And it was a big thread about just create over consume, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, generally speaking, whether it's like creating content or like product or whatever it is, but like it's generally a 99-1 split. 99% of people just consume, whether that's buying, just constantly buying fast fashion, constantly watching TikTok. Then the 1% that can create and ultimately consistently do it, it's almost like inevitable that you'll find some success eventually, whether that's this podcast, which I intend to do consistently because that's always a problem when something's new. Whether it's like you want to start an e-com business, info products, online coaching.
Yeah, because you can refine and pivot whatever you do. And just make sure it's actually something which you can monetize, basically. But yeah, no, it's nuts. And it benefits anyone who wants to start a business or create something which they can monetize. Because all of your audience now online, because their screen time's like 8 to 10 hours. I think one of the ultimate life hacks right now for people between their age of like 20 to 30 is just do not have a screen time of 8 hours.
Yeah, true. Unless it's 8 hours working on something.
Yeah, if you keep your screen time low, like your actual phone screen time, like you can just create stuff. You actually think about things, you learn things, and as a result, you're actually understanding how you can then monetize something or create money.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, and again, it's probably ties in with like the whole, everyone's become so fake and like bitchy on social media and shit. And definitely applies to like starting a business, but like probably more than anything, it applies to things like just we were saying before we started recording this, is like, I was probably fucking nervous to record the podcast. Like I used to do YouTube stuff, then I got hate for it because like it's easy to hate when it's like putting videos out, whereas like if it's obviously a brand you've built and you're a bit more anonymous as a founder, unlike, well, until obviously what happened to me. But yeah, like I don't know, even speaking to like my parents, like I mentioned, I was redoing the podcast. I was like to my dad, I said, I'm going to start doing the podcast. And his initial reaction was, why on earth would anyone want to listen to that? Like, why on earth would you want to put that content out? But it's just, yeah, I mean, whatever, fine, maybe it's shit content. But you could say that about anything. And people do say that about anything. They say, why would you start that business? Why would you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And it comes ultimately down to the creator versus consumer mindset, which is like 99% to 1%, or the opposite way around. And yeah, it's just, it seems weird that like people are so innately negative towards anyone that wants to build anything, yet they won't do their, it's like I was saying in the previous episode, like no one has ever hated on someone that did anything. But there's a lot of people, not necessarily hating, but just like putting down things and saying, oh, that's a waste of time, or... Yeah,
it's just a reflection of their own poor self-esteem, or the fact they know they could have done something like this and haven't done it. It's all it is.
Yeah, because I think once you realise that, it's like, oh, fuck. I mean, like, yeah, I realised it in like an e-com sense ages ago, but like making content, I always kind of wanted to do more of it. And then, yeah, it just got put off by like people telling me, oh, that was shit, like a music channel I had. And then vlogging, I was just probably less interested in that, and it was a bit less relevant at the time. But even that was like, why people were saying, why are you doing that? And then some people saying, why are you doing this to the podcast? I'm sure they will, but
even we have friends that still like criticise things like us being on a podcast and stuff like that, because they want to remain anonymous as business owners or founders. And I understand the reasoning for that, but at the same time, if you can monetize something like this and build a brand around it, then absolutely go for it. Like, just do it.
Yeah,
and it's fun.
I think,
You get to meet
just
cool
like a networking tool. That's kind of the recent change I had after getting over the whole fucking Neon Beach scandal. It was just like, yeah, I should probably get back on social media, because especially if you're putting out what I think is like decent, authentic, if anything, content, then people, yeah, it's just a decent networking tool, isn't it? If you're not, the problem is now, like social media, if you're not on social media at all, either yourself or your business, you're probably fucked.
Yeah.
Like to some extent.
And also the argument about like remaining anonymous if you're a business founder and as a result people not latching onto your business is like totally contradicting itself, because ultimately if you're selling a product, people are aware of your business.
Yeah.
So like when people say that, they're like, people can lock onto
yeah.
what you're doing in terms of your systems or your tactics or whatever you're doing with the niche. That's absolute bollocks, because you're selling a product, therefore people can reverse engineer that. They don't need to know. It's bizarre.
It's an interesting one actually. Because
it's so baffling.
I used to think more like that, and it's probably why we partly cancelled the podcast last year. You know, me and the two of us that were doing it. And then I sort of realised, I suppose there's another term I've come onto recently because of Twitter, which is like building in public. And I think it's just quite a good term, because I think it's net beneficial basically to share some stuff of what you're doing. And like you just said, like if you've got a big brand, say, and you're an anonymous founder, fucking millions of people will see the brand anyway
and purchase your product.
And
otherwise,
if they want to copy it, they can still copy it. And to be honest, they're probably more likely to copy it if there's no content at the founder, because it's humanless to them.
Exactly. There's no aspect of like any loyalty or association towards that person in any respect. And also particularly like brands that are built around lifestyle, because you're still portraying an amazing lifestyle that the brand's created and clearly the founder's experiencing.
Yeah.
It's just, I find it utterly bizarre.
And then I suppose in many ways, obviously Gymshark have done it massively. Other brands have done it, but that's probably like the obvious example. Like having the founder so public probably makes people buy into the brand even more, and probably actually makes like investors buy into the brand even more. Because if you're on the map as a founder, I know that there's a lot of people that definitely more people I see doing this, but like, it's definitely, you're more likely to get approached by like investors, people that potentially want to buy the business, etc., etc.
Yeah, like Shan Hanif, who runs Genflow, the CEO of Genflow, he spoke about that so openly on his podcast. He was like, one of the reasons why I was producing vlogs for the past 6 months every week was because I was looking to raise capital. Yeah,
it's quite smart, to be fair.
And as a result, he raised $12 to $13 million.
Yeah.
In January. And well, that makes perfect sense, yes, because people can see the process from A to B, actually observe who you are, trust you. It's the same way in which people buy products from me because they trust me.
Yeah.
And because I've nurtured them through content. And like the same with investors, people buy into humanity. They buy into like actually being able to understand what contributes to what and the bit about the person. And the same way that like Matt and I recently, we hopped on a call with one of Matt's actual like previous investors about a potential product. And I'm not going to name the product, but it was around a supplement brand.
Yeah.
And then we both hopped off a call and we were like, well, it's never going to happen because we just don't like the founder.
Yeah, but it just came across. Yeah, it didn't come across very well, and it was like.
Yeah, and there's no background history of us to like that we can observe in terms of content around him or like what he chose, why he chose to do this, etc. So we can't actually fact check anything either, apart from his company stats.
Yeah,
so it's like, whereas if I want to work with someone, like if I hire someone and I can look at their social media and see that they're actually passionate about something that I'm hiring them for, I'm much more likely to hire them.
And I suppose like even if you're not putting content out, just on that point about that call, I suppose putting content out probably actually helps your social skills and networking skills and selling skills ultimately anyway, like makes you a better speaker, etc., etc. But then, yeah, I mean that's the point. So then, even if you're not putting content out, you can get better at it by doing content. Wait, what was I saying? Wait, I've lost my words. My point is, even if you're not putting content out, just getting better at speaking and networking is going to be better for like situations like that where you're having calls and you need to come across well and not just fucking corporate bollocks, whatever.
Yeah.
But actually on top of that, obviously making content gives you practice at speaking, whether in a situation like this, on a call.
And also like further improving your ability to actually articulate ideas, which is key if you're running a business. Because like if you don't speak to people or create content around your particular field or niche, like how on earth are you going to communicate to a team what you want them to do?
Yeah, true.
And if you're building any kind of business, you're going to need to continuously drill in the same point like 5 or 6 times a day for your team to understand it. It won't be a case of like, okay, we're doing this system and then they immediately take hold of it and run with it. Because that's just not the way that humans work, particularly people that are working within a role in a company.
Yeah.
Like you have to say the same thing 5 times over, potentially in different ways to actually get to the point where they understand it and then actually apply it. I think that's been like a massive learning curve for me as well, like huge learning curve for me.
Yeah, like, and obviously I don't really have a fucking personal brand. I guess this podcast is like, yeah, the one part of like personal branding, the one part of content which I've always wanted to put out, and now I'm putting out more, and I'll probably ultimately end up building some sort of personal brand around it, even if it's very not that big. But I feel like it's quite a deep platform. And like, do you find, well, I suppose that's not the question, but like, obviously you don't have 1 million followers, but you've still built a crazy business from a very deep audience.
Yeah, like I've got 10k followers for context, and like I actually refer to this, I've got like 4,000 Facebook friends. I did 100k last month.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not running any paid traffic right now. I'll start running paid shout outs next week to actually scale my Instagram audience, and as a result drive more traffic towards our offer so it can scale.
Yeah.
But that was just within the first like 45, 30 days of us launching a new offer, because it's a good offer, which for me was so interesting as well, because it's like, yeah, you can scale with paid traffic for sure, but if you can actually monetize something with a very small audience, it means your messaging's on point, your offer's on point, the guarantee you have in place for your offer is on point, delivery is on point. You can then scale it to the moon with paid traffic and amplify that.
Yeah, I suppose it's like, yeah, it's better to have 10,000 quality followers and like fucking 5 quality friends or network than have 1 million followers which are all just Indians masturbating over pictures of you.
Yeah,
or whatever it is,
like,
which a lot of certain like female influencers in reality have. Like, they'll have 1 million followers, but they can't even monetize their audience.
Which brands is the point I'm making as well.
Yeah,
like if you're an aspiring influencer and you want to build and you want to actually monetize your personal brand, like build an actual audience, not just people that are like, obsessed with you for whatever reason, but aren't going to purchase anything from you.
Yeah,
like get it right, sort out what you're doing with that.
Yeah,
so like,
so true.
Someone that's done that incredibly well, and if there's any like girls listening to this, is Grace Beverly.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like the amount of success she's attained as a result of starting Tala, Shreddy, other businesses on the back end of her following is phenomenal. But that's because she built a loyal following base, majority of which aren't like pervy men.
Yeah,
it's actually girls that actually want to learn from her and purchase from her product, purchase her products, and she's done phenomenally well with it. Like, so replicate that. Look at Molly May. She's done the same thing.
Yeah,
funnily enough,
slightly different audience, but
it's a slightly different audience, just potentially more like fashion based, whatever it may be. Has done phenomenally well with it. And like, even for example, like the Nelk Boys that we both watch like all the time, and like I know all of our mates watch, they did like 70 mil from merch last year.
Yeah, they've got a fucking cult audience.
Yeah,
I'd love to get them on the podcast at some point.
Yeah, it's just like college dudes
Episode
that want to party.
500.
Like literally like frats.
Yeah, but yeah, it's so true. Like, but it's such, like I find even myself like just being like a cult follower of them almost.
Yeah, no, it's lit.
I probably wouldn't buy that. Well, I haven't bought that merch. I probably wouldn't, be fair, but like I definitely watch their videos. Like, and
we're people that are hard to like convince to purchase because we sell our own
probably,
stuff. So like, it's really hard to actually get us to purchase anything.
But yeah, they're a really good example, and it's like a deep audience, but also fucking massive, which obviously equals like probably $100 million plus business. I don't know what they're doing, but probably more than that.
Like 70 mil from merch last year without Happy Dad, and now Happy Dad's launched. Like that'd be $1 billion business.
Yeah, that's
I don't
crazy.
have any doubt about that. And they've also, one thing that's really interesting about, and I only actually came to know this like last weekend from Tyler, was that Steve and Kyle put in place a CEO and a president for both companies.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought they were responsible for all operations, but they've actually hired someone to leverage their audience.
It's a big operation at that level, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's really bright. That's super bloody intelligent.
I suppose that brings it on nicely to wrapping round to an earlier point before we get on too much of a tangent. Is I definitely see more influencers now and like content creators like Nelk, Grace Beverly, whatever, realizing that you can't make that much money long term just fucking doing paid shout outs, etc. So obviously now they're all trying to build brands. Or not all of them, the smart ones are. Obviously you're in for a productions thing.
Yeah.
Well, tell us more about that. I suppose we went over briefly, but that's building info products with influencers. But then the plan is, you mentioned, to potentially, and I think it's smart, to move into doing physical product brands, like ecom brands, whether that's something like Tala, fucking Happy Dad, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, the reasons to why I saw this being like a gap or something we can actually build as a business was because influencers, as you said, like they've correctly identified that they can only last on brand deals for so long. Yeah. And brand deals are renewed every like 12, 6, whatever, however many months, 24 months. And as a result, they have a certain lifespan. So it's like between the age of 20 to 30, yes, you can make loads of money, but after that, you're done, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can then build an actual platform for an influencer, which they actually own, in this instance, an info product and a digital course, they can't get a brand tell them, no, you can't run that anymore, or you can't make money from that anymore.
Yeah.
And as a result, they can actually monetize their own audience on their own terms So if their brand deals go, they can make a ton of money no matter what. Which is exactly what Grace has done. So we're basically doing that with just info products. So obviously we have the skill set to build and scale info products with a very middle audience like mine, which is 10k followers. So we're now basically building info products for influencers that have, in this instance, we're about to work with an influencer that has 18 million followers. If we convert like 2% of that following, it's like 36 million for a 199 product.
Yeah.
Which is just phenomenal. I think that's only 1%, sorry. Which is just absolutely phenomenal. But that's where things are going right now. People are like influencers who are locked onto things aren't relying on brand deals, they're building their own companies. So if we can help do that for them and automate it for them as a system, we have a business that we can scale to the moon and back.
Yeah, because that's the thing, like most influencers, not all of them, but most of them probably don't know how to, well, most people and most influencers wouldn't know how to properly monetize the audience. So
yeah, no, like the influencers we've worked with so far, like they have no clue and they also don't want to know.
Yeah.
Like they want to make money, but they don't want to like have to actually observe how to make money and all learn the principles that contribute to it. They'd much rather give like 50% of the business away to someone that knows how to do it.
Yeah, so true. It's a good model.
And as a result, create revenue from it, which they can then create revenue from the next like 2, 3, 4 years and then build in something different.
Yeah. And ultimately have an asset they can sell potentially.
Yeah.
If they build something proper.
And the same way in which like, obviously with the update from OnlyFans, which was like a month ago, where they said they're removing sexually explicit content or creatives.
Yeah, was that legit?
No, they actually reversed that decision like a day later. But if that were to be the case, like that would have been maybe like 75% of OnlyFans creators done.
Yeah, literally.
Whereas if they actually had their own OnlyFans platform, they'd be the only OnlyFans creator that has that platform, and as a result can monetize it. So all of that audience would have gone immediately to their offer.
Yeah.
Which would have made way more sense for someone to do. But
Very
no one
true.
did it. So it's just like, you know, if you can facilitate that aspect of things and leverage someone's audience. And also, as we all know, anyone that runs a business, like the reasons to why we work with influencers, like in your instance, obviously with the brands you've run as well, is so you can access their audience.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can then partner with someone like that and you know how much money they can make, but they're not aware of how to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Then you have a sick
deeper
offer, and that's what we've done with Info Productions, basically.
Yeah, because obviously Genflow is probably certainly the only company I'm aware of, at least in the UK, that does it with physical products. Yeah,
Genflow, and then like one of our inspirations for building this obviously was Masterclass, but that's a centralized version of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different model. They pay their influencers, or like Samuel L. Jackson, Serena Williams, like an upfront fee of like 2 to 5 mil, or whatever it is.
Yeah, fuck, I always wondered, they must be so expensive.
Yeah, they pay them so much money. And then
the ads
as a result,
are so good as well.
I think they have like, I don't know whether or not they have like a revenue-based deal after that in terms of collected revenue, but because it's a subscription-based product for the platform, I doubt that.
Yeah.
Because like, you couldn't attribute someone purchasing Masterclass subscription just to one product unless they go to
it
immediately.
Very true.
So it'd be very difficult to track that. So I doubt that's the case. I think it's paying a one-time fee, but then the production cost is like phenomenally big. It's like watching a movie.
Yeah, it is, to be fair. Fuck.
And it's not like...
I'd like to have someone making this podcast a movie, but baby steps.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Masterclass in itself isn't like how to make money, like actionable steps. It's like, these are principles that I apply to my business, or like how to cook food or whatever. So it's actually different to what we're doing to a degree, and it's more like an actual Netflix show, whereas it's like an interview of them orchestrating how they've done things. So, but that in itself, like Masterclass is now worth something around 2.6 billion USD, and it's not profitable.
Yeah, I always find it interesting. This could probably be another fucking debate as well, or just conversation. I think I spoke about it a few times, just on that point. Like, obviously, like e-com brands or whatever, which I'm more familiar with, obviously, like a bedroom brand will sell for like typically like 2 to 3x net profit. That's pretty standard. So if you're running 3 million revenue, making 300 grand, you could probably only sell it for £1 million, typically speaking. But then you get to the next level where suddenly, well, there's probably 3 steps. Like that's the most standard, where like there's a lot of those acquisitions that happen that you would never read about because they're not that big. Then you get the brands that will sell for like 10x revenue, or be valued at 10x revenue. Like I think Gymshark was similar to that. I don't know the exact, but it was like obviously much higher than 3x profit. It was like 40x profit or whatever. And like movement watches as well, they sold for like 200 million. It was making like 7 million profit or whatever. I've always been interested by that. But then you get the next level where you get these typically massively, well, they're always like VC backed because that's how they get the valuation on paper. Like they raised 200 million for 10%, so they're worth 2 billion, but they're burning cash. And like a lot of public companies as well, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I've always just found it interesting, like particularly the first two, because how do I go with my next ecom brand? I've been thinking about this a lot. From only commanding a 2 to 3x net profit multiple, which by the way would mean it's probably impossible to make 100 million quid from an exit, because unless you build a 30 million pound a year profit ecom brand, which is fucking difficult. You'd have to be doing 300 million in revenue probably. So how do you go to like being acquired for 5 to 10x revenue as a brand, which are obviously like these unicorn examples you read about, and that's how you can potentially make 100 million quid, I think, from an ecom exit that you can build over like 5 years. But then beyond that, you obviously get companies like fucking Masterclass, loads of tech examples. I always read like public company like financials just out of interest, and like there's a company called Atlassian, is that what you say? Atlassian? They make Trello and a bunch of other things. Their market cap is like $50 billion. Their revenue is 500 million. So they're trading at 100x revenue market cap. It's like, why? They're losing 100 million a year or something. And obviously I get the mechanics of why, because it's a public company, blah, blah, blah. People are buying into what they think the future value is. But it's just interesting, because I would rather be the bloke that, well, I don't know, like hypothetically, I'd rather be the person that raised a load of money, built $1 billion brand that's losing money, but my stake's worth $500 million and I exit, rather than bootstrapping my ass off, can't make any fucking profit because ad costs are going up, and then I have to sell it for relatively fuck all because, do you know what I mean? Like,
is there actually any business that's just bootstrapped and attain like $1 billion valuation? I'm not actually aware of any. Like totally bootstrapped. They've all raised capital at some point. Or had invested.
I feel like one good example in the e-com space is MyProtein. He always bangs on.
But he raised capital. Oliver Cookson.
I don't think he did until he sold it. He said it was didn't raise capital until he sold it for 65 million. But even then,
I think like the billion level though, is it?
I know. I mean, it's still sick level, but it's just interesting because I don't know how that was relevant to your point, but the masterclass thing just made me think, and I've always been interested in that because ultimately, if you're building a brand, I mean, granted, you might enjoy it, blah, 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 you want to build something great, but most people want to start a business, because it's the game, etc., but you want to get paid for it at some point. Sorry, brief interlude because my baby Dashin started barking because someone came into our home studio. But, I guess, I mean, geez, we've gone a tangent forever about stuff like that, but, masterclass is interesting, and I suppose, what's the vision then going forward? I suppose that's kind of a good way to wrap it up, like the last 5-10 minutes, whatever. What's the vision going forward with Info Productions? Anything else?
We've spoken about this a few times, and like definitely spoke about this a year ago with both you and Fred, like whether or not we want to get to $1 billion brand or £1 billion brand or at some point. Like I definitely see that as being viable, particularly given the fact that like the information product space online is blowing up massively, and there's a decentralization away from like university systems and classic education. So university if we can actually tailor our services towards that, or build an offer around that as well as working with these influencers that have access to hundreds of millions of people, it'll be something that we can scale pretty drastically, and I'll definitely bring on capital at some point to facilitate that growth even more so. But like our immediate way of ensuring that is by working with these influencers that have access to, as I said, like multi-millions of followers. They would cost us hundreds of thousands in ad spend to attain. We're just leveraging their audience to ensure that. I'd love to get to like a $1 billion valuation, if not more, with the brand. I don't know how much I'll own by that point. But I'd actually love to facilitate that and be a part of that. Like definitely, just because it's like one of those incredible figures, and I also see that as being very viable, particularly considering that people started masterclass where one guy who had the idea initially, who was based in college, and he spoke to his like film teacher or something like that in the US. It's just two people that partnered on a product. Like, I don't know how much they own of the company right now, having raised, I think they're round a year funding. But I'd love to kind of like match that level, and particularly then add on different variables of that, like the e-commerce aspect of things, tech, software. And having been like inspired by obviously all of our friends and what they've achieved, but then also like people like our friend Ismail that lives down the road. He built a tech and SaaS business, and it did 16 million in its first launch month.
That's fucked.
And he's like 22, 23. And I was like, okay.
That's the shit that just like gives me anxiety, but because like, fuck, I'm so shit. But then it makes you think, okay, just think bigger. No, it's just like think bigger, and also that think about vehicles which you can actually facilitate even more growth with. Like I think the majority of entrepreneurs are very ADHD, and as a result, they hop from one vehicle to another all the time. I do that. Christ.
But I also do think it's very like you have to be realistic about whether or not your vehicle can get to like $1 billion in terms of its valuation.
I guess if that's where you want to go, definitely.
And I think like ultimately one of the ways to actually make that happen is by working in tech and producing something which is along that level of. But again, I also do think you should stick with your offer if you do see it as being viable and the particular vehicle you're in, and like look at someone like Alex Hormozy who's doing 100 million a year.
Yeah, that Don is mad. Like I said, I've been listening to his 100 million. I haven't actually finished it. I was listening to it today. I'm halfway through his $100 million offer book. It's pretty good, to be fair. Definitely changed the way I think about things. I just probably haven't read enough in recent. I probably used to read loads, and then I just assumed I knew stuff, and then probably stopped reading, which is really fucking stupid. But
I think like it
gets the mind going.
Two different ways to think about it though, because like a load of like content that we read, or people that read, they're just doing it for the purpose of like self-improvement, when in reality it actually doesn't attribute towards anything because it's not applicable to where they are in life.
Oh, you're reading crap stuff.
Yeah, I'd much rather purchase courses that teach me a particular skill set, like how to refine this component of a funnel or ads.
Yeah, true.
Or building an offer.
Because like if you take advice and read shit from, I don't know, 10 different experts in fucking 10 different spaces, then you're not really nailing down anything.
No, at all. You can't even process the amount of information that you're actually absorbing in the first place and actually action it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You're just shooting yourself in the foot, basically.
Yeah, get like shiny object syndrome, just reading a billion self-help books and then not actually doing anything.
Or learning about principles which are applicable
well.
in 10 years' time, but not right now.
Yeah, very true.
Like, and you get complacent because you're like, well, I'm not there, so I can't apply this.
Yeah.
Well, duh. It's just like,
yeah,
no
true.
shit. Have to work on where you are and then actually develop skills that will enable you to get to the next point.
Yeah, geez. So if you sold this future business then for $1 billion, let's say you made 200 million quid, hypothetically, what would you do next? Do you have a noble pursuit? Do you think you're entrepreneurial enough to always want to like do the next thing, like Elon Musk or whatever? Or realistically, would you retire to Costa Rica and get 5 dogs?
5 dogs specifically?
Well, 5 or 4.
What, sausage dogs?
Dash hands. Like this one.
Like this guy, this little guy. Yeah, I'd probably start something else, definitely. But I also know that like, and I'm not just saying this to like portray myself as being like a good person, but I lost my dad to cancer and I would love to like do something along the lines of to help, but independently. I wouldn't put money into another like charity because they haven't cracked it so far.
Yeah.
So, like, and also it's where my money's going. So I'd much rather put money towards something where I'm actually doing independent research and helping people in a situation like that, because it's awful and it can tear families apart. So I'd much rather do something along the lines of that.
Yeah, lit.
And like also like, yeah, if you exit for 200 million, what on earth you can do with that money? I definitely don't want to give it to my kids.
Yeah, true.
Like definitely don't. I feel like you're robbing them of so much happiness if you give money to your kids.
You could probably play a game called Let's See How Much We Can Spend in Maddox.
Yeah.
I wonder what the record is.
Or in Harrods.
I think I want to get Gary on this podcast to speak about that sort of shit. That's be interesting. Very different topic.
Oh, he's just across the road now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's back in MC.
Oh, really? Since when?
Yeah, since like 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Oh.
But no.
I
honestly think like giving all that money to your kids is just the way to ultimately fuck them up and like make them very unhappy people.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't want to do that. I'd much rather like honestly pretty much start with nothing. Just give it to other causes or put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Give it to my mum first, but yeah, no one else.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I feel like a lot of people, and myself included to an extent, think when they get 100 million quid, you know, then they'll be happy, then they'll be set. But you'll probably find.
No, I was happiest when I was 18. I had no money.
Yeah.
I actually was when I just finished my A-levels. I felt like I had absolute freedom.
Yeah, like summer holiday vibes.
Yeah, and I probably had like 50 quid in my account.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that.
And I was just happy because I was like, well, I've got everything ahead of me. I've got all these opportunities.
Yeah.
I wasn't valuing myself based on how much money I had or what I'd achieved so far. I was just like, right, I've got to give it a crack. Why not?
Yeah. The 4 pillars of life: health, wealth, love, and happiness.
Yeah, I think freedom's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, freedom. Yeah, I feel like freedom's part of all that. But
lit.
Excited to see it then. Give you 5 years to get to $1 billion.
5 years, mate. Jeez.
I mean, it's definitely good to think big. Like I've been trying to fucking 10x journal recently, which is an exercise where you just write your goal, then you intentionally make it 10x bigger to the point where it sounds stupid. So you should start aiming for 10 billion.
Yeah,
because no one says 10 billion. It's fucking ludicrous.
Well, I mean, I know for a fact that like the next influence working with, we can do like 36 mil, convert 1% of the audience.
Yeah, times it by what, 300 to get to 10 billion. Wait, no, more than that? No. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like if you'd said to me 3 or 4 years ago you did 100k in a month with like 85% margin, I'd have been like, what? Like, there's no way. It's just the same thing.
HMRC has joined the chat.
No, exactly. It's just the way that works, isn't it? It's just your thought process about things.
Yeah, definitely excited to see it.
Right, make it happen, mate.
Right then, pretty good episode. We'll wrap it up there, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, like Tyler said last time, and we'll see you in a bit.